All right, last we left off at the number one reactor, and we're gonna load up really quick. And this is where the game takes a interesting turn. We basically have to destroy the reactor in terms of what we have to do. We have to place basically an explosive on the reactor, and we get a restore materia here. And then we do our thing, because that's the mission that Cloud has to do at the very beginning of the game. Um, Unfortunately, when it comes to Cloud, he tends to have a sort of an identity problem half of the time because he talks to himself sometimes throughout the story. But yeah, we're gonna set up the explosives, like so. And now we gotta fight one of the main bosses in the story. Here they come, and here we go. This is one of the first robo guards, the robot guard of the actual reactor. We gotta take it out. It's kind of like a scorpion type deal where you actually have to fight it. And for him, I would suggest as a strategy not to attack when his tail goes up. Because once his tail goes up, he will literally launch a counterattack with its laser, and that will literally wipe you out. Well, not necessarily wipe you out, but close enough. So I would definitely not attack while its tail is up. We're going to use limit breaks on this thing. Big shot to take it out. And we're going to use some bolt action because apparently electricity is the weakness of the machines in this particular game. I would recommend using bolt multiple times against it. It's going to be using the rifle attack. We're going to be using bolt and attack just regularly. There we go, 86 damage. And this is where the tail goes up. Don't want to attack it while it's in that position, because if you do, it will literally, as it says, counterattack with its laser. That would be a strategy that I would enforce. So while we're waiting, we're just going to heal up my characters here. We're going to use potions, and we are going to wait it out. Potion. Now that its tail is back down, we can launch our counter-offensive and make our grand stand here against the robot. Um, it's going to use search scope, but it's not going to use its laser, so that's a good thing. And we're just launching bolt, launching all our moves here. It really doesn't want to go down very easily, does it? But, you know, it is what it is, I suppose. So now we just gotta keep on attacking until it falls victim to my bolt action attacks. It will fall eventually. I'm supposing. Come on. There it goes. All right. And that is a victory if there was one in the beginning of the game. So now we're moving forward. Gotta get our stuff. And now we're moving in for the next portion of the game, which is the timer of 10 minutes to escape the reactor. 10 minutes to escape. But we're just going to fast forward here a little bit. And for this next part, I would always recommend running away from the enemies so you have more time than you can actually spare to get through the reactor part of it. Because if you don't do it properly, the game will literally be a game over and you won't get out in time. Of course, I always rescue Jessie because she needs to be rescued, I suppose. I get my stuff out. I make my way through here, climb the stairs, which, quite honestly, I'm amazed I didn't find anybody or any enemies on the way up, which is fascinating, actually. Except for that particular moment in time. But, I mean, you can't win them all. So now we're going to talk to these guys. They're going to open up the doors. And skippity skip, skip, skip. We got Cloud's Limit Break already ready for another battle, and now we're back to where we're supposed to be, which is exiting the reactor and saving Jesse one final time, and of course the thing goes kaplooey. So, now that that's coming up, it's basically the turning point of the game because you kind of have a sense of guilt afterwards. Like the player has a sense of guilt dealing with all this damage that you're inflicting upon this company. But at the same time, it it's it's complicated because it's a sense of a like you did something and the decisions you make an impact throughout the story, obviously. So, now that we're coming up on the next part here, rendezvous to Sector 8 station. That's where we need to go next. Now we're moving. But this is the main introduction of the game. I'd just like to breeze right through it as much as possible to get to the actual game of the actual story. It does take a while. They do like to talk a lot. But I do love the dialogue. Don't get me wrong, the story is still jam-packed with goodies. And of course, if you didn't know, you can actually buy a flower from the flower girl, also known as Eris or Arif. I don't know why they mispronounce her name throughout the stories, but they either way, it's still kind of the same name. So we'll just go with buying one, and we got a flower, and now we're good to go. Because she doesn't seem to know much about what's going on in this particular area, so now we're just moving on through to the next part, wherever that may take us. There's a potion over here, so we're going to pick that up. Yoink. It's mine now. So now we're moving, and of course now we're going to be halted by the Cinder soldiers. We're going to avoid them like the plague, because I just don't like fighting them at the moment, and I just want to get through this part. So we're going to say later, and we're going to jump in the train and just get on out of here. That's exactly what's going to happen. So we're going to make a jump. Yippers. And we're on our way to the next part of the game. And of course, they're mourning for my doom because they think that I actually perished in that next part. But of course, Cloud didn't really perish. She's just in the top of the train, trying to get back to where he's supposed to be in the mission or whatever. And of course, they're saying, "Oh my gosh, what happened to Cloud?" It's like, yeah, well, he'll appear eventually. It's just it takes a little while. He always comes in late. The heroes always come in late. At least that's a cliche, but it makes sense. There we go. That's where he enters, and we're back on schedule. So we gotta skip over this next part. There's a lot of dialogue, so we just gotta go through it. And of course, we're gonna follow Barrett throughout his journey because that's what we do in this game. Um, let's see, we're gonna close down that door like so. And we are going to have a little discussion about how I'm going to be going to the next part of the game, which is actually the train station. Like, we're going to be dealing with the trains and hopping from train to train and all that good stuff. So, let's see where we're headed next. Train station, Sector 8 station, and we're going to talk to Jessie at this point, because she's going to be looking at the Midgar railing station, so we have to go through that next part. And yeah, that he's just scared of the hooligans or whatever. We're going to go over here and we're going to talk. I went too far. So we're going to talk to Jessie at this point. She's going to introduce us to the Midgard railing system. And we're just going to skip ahead to the next part. That way we can get the complete model of Midgar in front of us, and that's pretty much how it goes. It's a very interesting and intricate system they got with the security checkups. They actually check licenses with train stations, apparently, throughout the story, which is kind of interesting, I suppose. But, I mean, it is a futuristic society, so I guess it makes sense that they would do all this. But of course, we get caught because we're using fake IDs according to what we have in the system of this particular game. So we get caught, sort of. And well, technically we don't get caught, but we will get caught later on throughout the story. But either way. And now we're going to talk about the next portion of the game, which is basically how Midgar is a floating city and unsettling scenery. Basically, the people of the city don't like living on the plate just because they have to. They really are forced to live on the plate, and that's the explanation that Barrett gives to Cloud. Um, it's kind of sad, really, because they really love their land no matter how bad it gets, and that's basically how it works throughout that particular explanation. Just like the train, where the rails take it, that's the only thing the train can do. That's kind of an analogy of what they use for this particular scene. But I digress. So, we're over here in the next part. We're exiting the train at Sector 8, as we should. And now we're gonna get into the next checkpoint, because we need to save the game. Saving the game is what we do best here. We're just gonna go on and do our thing here. We're gonna have a little meeting, a little get together, as one would put it. And we're talking about the next mission that we're gonna be doing. Meet at the hideout, and we're gonna do our thing in this particular portion of the game. And we're gonna walk right through, and basically we're just going to save the game now because it's a long introduction. The introduction to this game is very extensive. It's a very extensive introduction to Final Fantasy VII, and it's quite a bit to take in. It's a lot to unpack. So now we're saving the game, and we are officially done for today. Until next time, I'll catch you guys in the next one.